Welcome to the faculty podcast of the Department of Astrological Studies. I am Dr. Helios Voss. Today we undertake an advanced examination of the ascendant, the signs, as they rise on the eastern horizon. We will not repeat the usual personality descriptions. Instead, we treat the ascendant as a structural principle, the precise angle at which a life intersects the world, the body as the first instrument of fate, and the style of embodiment that shapes every subsequent planetary expression. With me are Professor Luna Astara, Dr. Orion Quill, Dr. Celeste Ria, and Professor Kepler Sol. Luna, begin with the classical and structural definition.
The ascendant is the degree of the ecliptic rising at the moment of birth. It is not a planet and therefore has no essential dignity of its own. Its power is angular. In the Hellenistic tradition, it is the helm, the place of life, the point that determines the entire house structure. The sign on the ascendant colors the native's primary mode of encounter with reality. It describes how the organism orients itself in space and time before any planet has spoken. Fire rising initiates, earth rising consolidates, air rising relates and patterns, water rising receives and protects, cardinal rising acts, fixed rising endures, mutable rising adapts. These are not personality traits, they are vectors of embodiment.
I want to add a critical layer immediately. The popular language of the ascendant as mask or persona is a 20th century psychological overlay that often trivializes the point. The ascendant is not a social performance layered over a more real self. It is the actual interface, the way consciousness is forced to become flesh and enter a particular historical and cultural field. Every rising sign therefore carries political and existential weight. Aries rising does not merely look assertive, it is structured to meet the world as a site of immediate contest. Cancer rising does not merely appear nurturing, it is organized around the problem of safety and belonging in a world experienced as potentially invasive. The mask metaphor lets us off the hook from examining how the ascendant installs a particular relationship to power, vulnerability, and visibility from the first breath.
From an evolutionary and somatic perspective, the ascendant describes the soul's chosen style of incarnation. It is the contract of how this life will be approached at the level of the nervous system and the skin. Aries rising often correlates with a body that mobilizes quickly and a psyche that experiences hesitation as danger. Taurus rising builds a slower, more sensory, more territorial body. Gemini rising produces a nervous system tuned to rapid shifts in information and environment. Each rising sign sets a baseline tempo and a primary question the native must live. The planets then speak through that baseline. A Mars in Cancer behaves differently when the ascendant is Aries than when it is Pisces. The rising sign is the filter and the amplifier.
Technically, the ascendant is the most personal point in the chart after the luminaries and the angles. Its ruler, the chart ruler, becomes a primary time lord in many systems and a key significator of the life's direction. When we study perfections, the annual ascendant shifts, and with it, the entire experiential filter for that year. Empirically, periods when the perfection ascendant or directed ascendant contacts natal planets coincide with marked shifts in how the native is perceived and how they orient in the world. The rising sign is not static decoration. It is an active, movable structural factor.
Let us now move into original interpretations of the signs themselves when rising. We will proceed by element, offering structural rather than descriptive readings. Luna, the fire ascendants.
Aries rising installs the principle of immediate initiation. The body and psyche are organized around the question, what must be begun right now? There is little native patience for preliminary consensus. The life is lived as a series of decisive entries. Leo rising installs the principle of radiant presence. The native is structured to be seen and to organize the field around a central creative or authoritative flame. The risk is that visibility becomes the only proof of existence. Sagittarius rising installs the principle of directional meaning. The body leans toward the horizon. The life is organized as a quest for a coherent, larger frame. The danger is perpetual departure from the present.
Earth rising signs organize the incarnation around substance and durability. Taurus rising builds a body and a lifestyle that prioritize sensory continuity and the accumulation of reliable resources. The primary question is, what can be held and made lasting? Virgo rising organizes around refinement and useful discrimination. The nervous system is tuned to notice what is out of place and to correct it. The life becomes a continuous act of improvement, sometimes at the cost of simple presence. Capricorn rising organizes around hierarchical time and long structures. The native experiences life as something that must be built upward against gravity and entropy. The body often carries chronic preparatory tension.
Air rising signs install a primary relationship to pattern, relation, and the social field. Gemini rising structures the incarnation as continuous translation and lateral movement. The native is organized to metabolize multiplicity. The risk is fragmentation. Libra rising structures the incarnation around the problem of the other. The body and psyche are calibrated to the presence of relationship. Solitude can feel like a structural failure rather than a choice. Aquarius rising structures the incarnation around the collective pattern. The native often experiences personal emotion as secondary to systemic insight. The gift is genuine objectivity. The cost can be difficulty inhabiting ordinary human warmth without analysis.
Water rising signs organize the life around reception, protection, and emotional atmosphere. Cancer rising installs the principle of the safe container. The native is structured to monitor the environment for threats to belonging and to create protective boundaries. Scorpio rising installs the principle of irreversible transformation through intensity. The body and psyche are organized to register power, secrecy, and the undercurrents of every exchange. There is little capacity for superficial relation. Pisces rising installs the principle of permeable boundaries and imaginal participation. The native is structured to feel the larger field. The gift is compassion and artistic absorption. The risk is loss of coherent selfhood in the ocean of impressions.
An original synthesis I offer students is this: the rising sign is the answer to the question the soul asks at the moment of entry: how shall I meet this world? Aries answers by advancing, Taurus answers by establishing, Gemini answers by exchanging, Cancer answers by protecting, Leo answers by shining, Virgo answers by refining, Libra answers by balancing, Scorpio answers by penetrating, Sagittarius answers by seeking, Capricorn answers by building, Aquarius answers by systematizing, Pisces answers by dissolving and reuniting. These are not character sketches, they are ontological orientations. When reading a chart, therefore, begin with the ascendant not as a description of appearance, but as the primary style of being in the world. Then observe how the chart ruler is conditioned, where it is placed, and what it aspects. The entire planetary cast must speak through the rising signs filter. A moon in Capricorn with Aries rising will express its caution through decisive action. The same moon with Pisces rising will express it through withdrawal into imaginal or spiritual space. The ascendant is the first and most intimate of the structural determinants.
And we must remember that the ascendant is also culturally and historically situated. The same degree rising in different centuries or different social locations produces different lived realities. An Aquarius rising in a highly networked digital society faces different systemic pressures than one born in a village with limited technology. Original interpretation requires us to hold both the archetypal vector and the concrete historical field into which that vector is thrown.
A final practical note for advanced students: when the ascendant is tightly aspected by planets, especially by the luminaries or the chart ruler, those planets become part of the primary embodiment style. Conjunctions to the ascendant are particularly powerful. The planet is fused with the life vector itself. Oppositions create a lifelong dialogue between the rising orientation and the descending sign's demand. Squares introduce friction that must be metabolized through the body. Treat the ascendant as the living angle it is, the place where sky becomes skin. Thank you to my colleagues. This has been the faculty podcast on the signs in the ascendant as original structural principles.